Today, I'd like to talk about the new Act on Organ Transplantation in Japan. The Act on Organ Transplantation was revised and went into full effect on July 17th of 2010. In this new act, the regulations about organ transplantation from brain-dead patients were relaxed. However, the act revised from the viewpoint that benefits people who want to receive a transplant, and there was not sufficient discussion of the rights and responsibilities of the organ donors and their families. Before the Act on Organ Transplantation was revised, Japan had a serious problem about the shortage of organ donors. For people who wanted to receive a transplant, to go abroad was an important way to save their lives. But the situation became more serious. Going abroad for receiving a transplant encountered difficulties. In 2008, the Transplantation Society argued in the Declaration of Istanbul that treatment for patients from outside the country only acceptable if it does not deprive the opportunity of its own population to be provided transplant services. After this declaration, the morality of traveling abroad for organ transplantation became an issue in questions, and traveling abroad for receiving a transplant became viewed with suspicion in many countries. This situation motivated people facing with these problems to call for revising the Act on Organ Transplantation. As the supporters of revising the law desired, the Act on Organ Transplantation was revised in 2009. There are three notable changes. First of all, the new act was accepted the idea of presumed consent. It means people have default assumption to donate their organs for transplantation after their death. It allows transplant from brain dead patients without written consent. The other thing is that revised act enables transplanting organs from brain dead patients who are under 15 years old. It permits children to receive transplant heart, liver, lung, and other organs. It means it becomes not necessary to go abroad for children who want to receive those kind of organs in order to save their lives. Also, it's beneficial for children who wanted to receive other kind of organs because this act expected to increase the numbers of organ donors. The new act introduced change not only for donors but also families. In order to implement the two changes of organ donors criteria, patient's family came to play an important role. Under the new act, families should decide whether patient's organs are donated or not. But there is a problem that the new act rarely respects the rights of organ donors or respect their family. Now, in terms of problems of the new act, first to be considered is problem of presumed consent. The idea of presumed consent will allow harvesting organs from the bodies of people who do not want to donate their organs. It means we violate the patient's rights to have freedom to make decisions for themselves and against to the concept of informed consent. We should consider this problem, whether the possibility to ignore the patient's right is morally acceptable or unacceptable. Especially for brain dead patients who are under 15 years old, this problem is more serious than for the adult patients because they often do not or cannot express their will about organ donation. The system for operating the new act is far from ideal. There is not sufficient staff, and also the morality of leaving a decision on donating children's organ up to their family. Is it morally acceptable to allow for family exercise the right to make decision instead of children who are not able to make a decision or to express their decision? In such situation, if children's rights are not adequately considered and the system for operating the new act accurately are not sufficient, um, enforcement of the new act should be suspended because the act should reflect not only requirement of people who want to receive a transplant, but also rights of donors of organs. The other thing to think about is the psychological burden for families. In cases where a patient do not express their opinion about brain death and organ transplantation, their family should decide to whether allow organ transplanting organs the patient's brain death state or not. Even though they have enough to worry about because of the death of a relative, beyond that, they should dictate handling of their relatives' deaths and decide on how to deal with the bodies of relatives. Should it be allowed for humans to handle others' lives as a family's right? Is it really permissible to saddle psychological burden for families with facing a relative's death and handling their death? And also, the act has conflict with common sense of Japanese society. Half of Japanese people have doubt with the idea of brain death, and they have hesitation to donate their organs after they become a state of brain death. The idea of donating organs under brain death state is not widely accepted in Japanese society. The new act is not fitted with the idea of organ transplantation under brain death state in Japan. We must think carefully about this act and have enough discussion in the whole society in order to make the new act better for both organ donors and recipients.